satellites? A satellite represents a journey, information gathering, this journey around the Earth.
I'm MiLo. Welcome to Satellite Haiku.
MiLo, I'm Shawn.
Nice. So wow, what a big.
It's like we're meeting each other.
Yeah, totally. What a big night Tuesday night was. Politically, that was like it was. I guess like it was fun to be part of a blue wave and to like look at all of the sort of positive directionality of the races.
Yeah, I mean it's like because of the year and the situation, it's kind of a tiny blue wave. Like there weren't that many elections, but the ones that were very wave-like for sure. Yep. Indicative of a wave. Yeah. Well, there's some takes that there's some like I wrote a piece about it, but a couple of takes, like there's the take that it's a repudiation of the Trump agenda, which I totally think is true.
Yeah.
I think I saw a few people in the Democratic Party going, "Yeah, Democrats are back, baby." And I was like, no, I don't. No, I don't think that's the take right now. I think the Democrats have a lot of problems.
Right.
But Trump's stuff that he's doing is so beyond the pale that I think, yeah, it was an anti-Trump vote more than a pro-Democrat vote. I think that also the candidates who won were talented, as individuals. They were talented politicians, and that doesn't hurt either.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, and I was like, I was happy scrolling through all the New York Times, like the data sets that they have, like, the new thing is you have all the counties in a state, and then you show these arrows.
Yeah.
And the color, and then how much people shifted,
Like, yeah, what was the shift? Yeah.
And for Kamala Harris's election, I was horrified to see, for instance, that around my daughter's area in Queens, New York, there was this massive, like 15% kind of shift towards Trump, right?
Yeah.
And then in this one, it was so fun to see, like looking at places, red counties in Virginia that, had voted for Trump regularly, had a pretty significant shift in the blue direction. And it just felt to me like the, in the no kings, you wonder, like we need some kind of data feedback loop on where the country sits, like where they're sitting in relation to
It's so unpredictable though, because I think, like, not to be an elitist snob, but I think one of the sort of the meta takeaways from that is that people just don't think about shit very much at all. And maybe they're just not capable, because like, I remember like Mamdani kind of burst onto the scene with that video where he was going around interviewing people about why they voted for Trump or why they didn't vote at all.
Yep.
And the stuff people say when you ask why they voted for Trump, it's so illustrative of how people just don't really examine any of the facts or realities of stuff at all. They'll say like, well, prices. So it's like, well, have you looked at the tariff policy, right? Like, like your argument about prices makes no sense if you actually spent 10 minutes like digging into actual facts about stuff, right? Or they'll say Gaza. Well, it was about Gaza, like Kamala's stance on Gaza. Well, it's like Trump wants to pave Gaza and put a resort there. Like,
right. You're not doing anything.
You know what I mean? Like none of it
favors.
Makes any sense when you actually listen to the reasons they come up with, and you're like, so what these shifts kind of highlight to me, I mean, I'm happy for the shift, but what they kind of highlight is that people don't actually think about any of this stuff beyond, like, it's just a vibe for people. It's just aesthetic. Politics in the U.S. is just aesthetics in a lot of ways. Like, it's just a performance. People don't actually debate ideas. So all this, like, which policies are going to, all this talk among Democratic Party kind of leaders, which policies are going to resonate with voters. Voters don't think about policy at all, and they're hardly capable of thinking about policy. So I don't think policy is the thing that moves people.
Yeah. So again, like, and I come right out and say, like, I'm left of Bernie Sanders. Like, I'm a democratic socialist, dyed in the wool. So for me, like the idea that these simple things, like I feel like if we go back to Hillary Clinton's campaign or her primary campaign, we know from those hacked emails that there was an effort to extricate Bernie Sanders and his platform from the party.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And to me, what this feels like is, what is it? How many years later? 10 years later? Are we 9 years later? 9 years later, we're actually seeing, the timing is right in the right city where things are just too expensive for someone to run on an affordability platform and to say, hey, there's certain things that, we don't need to be communists, but let's be more like Denmark. Let's be more like Denmark. That's my thing, is like, when MAGAs say like, oh, he's a communist, it's going to be like the Soviet Union where you can't get toilet paper. And it's
Venezuela,
like,
they always say
Venezuela. And I'm like, no, what about Denmark? I want to be like Denmark. I would like to be like Denmark. And they're democratic socialists. They have, free healthcare.
Yeah, but
free
I mean,
college.
it's just the Republicans can do that because, again, people aren't smart enough to understand differences between things. Like the average person doesn't know the difference between Denmark and Venezuela, I think.
True. So
the average person couldn't define what socialism is, or how it's different from democratic socialism, or the relationship between socialism and communism. They don't know any of that.
Right.
They'll slur somebody as a socialist, fascist, communist, and you're like, that none of you just just automatically make no sense, right? Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's true. There is this, and this is what I've been writing about the last 3 or 4 posts that I've written are kind of about that split in the Democratic Party between the corporatists and the and the
progressives
and the Democratic Socialists, and and so I think there's been real tension there, and you pointed at that time when Hillary Clinton and the corporatist wing of the party was really maneuvering to get rid of the progressive wing, to cast them out. I mean, it's almost, I've heard people use the phrase like the Democrats they act like they're afraid of their voters. And there's a level to which that's totally true. Bernie's hugely popular.
Yeah.
And it's like, the Democrats are willing to widen their big tent as long as it doesn't include socialists.
Yeah. To me that, okay, so my dad is an historian, and so I was raised always to look through the lens of history at modern times and what might happen in the future. And that's why, in the couple of episodes ago, I posted that article about by that Yale historian who said we're in a mirror image of 1918 to 1930.
Yep.
Biden was Woodrow Wilson, an ailing guy. We lost the House. We lost all 3 branches of government, right?
Yeah.
And the oligarchs were beating the shit out of us. And what prepped us for the New Deal was that discomfort among working people. The fact that once you take it too far, eventually the king in the feudal castle, the people show up with pitchforks and torches because they just can't, they're starving and they're living outside that seems to be a pulsation throughout history of feudalism is where we end up unless we do something to avoid it, right?
Yeah.
It's like Elizabeth Warren's thing is she goes, I'm a capitalist and I love capitalism in the free market, but I am aware of its flaws. There's a deep, it isn't free market capitalism to have 5 companies control the price of beef. It's then the ability to collude non-verbally. It's just everyone raises their prices and they're like, ha ha ha, these people who are using next door rent app so that they don't even have, they can crank the price of rent up as far as they go without a free market, right?
Totally. Yeah.
And so anyway, so I feel like we're at a place where, I love the idea that if MAGAs and progressive liberals could all agree, why the fuck don't we have socialized medicine?
Yeah, I mean,
what the fuck?
There's the hardcore MAGAs that are just in it for the team. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
And they're unmovable, but there's a lot of people that are, that are just the shit isn't working, and politics isn't the system's not working.
Yeah.
It's not working for me, right? And, with the affordability message, it's interesting because you kind of need, so my kind of grand theory of all of this, which this is what I've kind of written and boiled it down to, is just that there's there's a level to which kind of like reality starts to be really obvious to people. Like, and, in terms of like, say, shit's not affordable, right? Well, why is it not affordable? And, you can have J.D. Vance saying, well, it's because you have Haitians in your community and, they're using up resources or whatever, right? So that's one story that some people would try to tell about why stuff isn't affordable. Like none of it, it's not challenging the idea that stuff's not affordable, right? Mm-hmm. And then you have, maybe Democrats have a different story. I think at some point, reality, people develop their own kind of internal story for stuff. And then the politician who's able to kind of like speak the simple truth out loud in a way that matches people's reality is the one that wins. Like, so it's like with Gaza was a really stark example, is where you have Mamdani was the only guy that was willing to say what Israel's doing is wrong. It's war crimes. It's atrocities. What they're doing, I'm going to avoid the genocide word because I think words like that are loaded and they're not very precise. But he was the only candidate who was able to kind of go there. Mm-hmm. And it's just one of those examples of people see what they see. Like, when you see the images coming out of Gaza, you go, okay, Mamdani's the only guy who's willing to actually speak the truth. Like, who's the only one who can say what this actually is to my eyeballs, obviously to my eyeballs. And everybody else is trying to gaslight me about what this is, but I see it, right? And so I think it's the same with affordability. And you hear like, it's because billionaire oligarchs and the 1% are hoarding too much wealth, right? And people are starting to really sort of get that that's the reason, So like when politicians go out there and they come up with a different story, and whether it's a Republican like J.D. Vance that's like wants to paint immigrants as the reason for that, right? Because they have their own agenda. Or if it's a corporatist that has some other story and they're not willing to say corporations have too much power and billionaire oligarchs have too much money because they're addicted to that power and money. They're so deeply entangled with it. People notice. They go, that candidate won't say the real thing out loud. They just can't say it. And why is that? Well, obviously they're corrupt, or they're compromised somehow, or they're an ideologue like J.D. Vance. They're just speaking the truth. They're speaking their own story, and it's obviously not the truth because I see the truth. The truth is those guys have too much money. Yeah. So I think there's this thing where just like speaking just the truth that's obvious to everybody. If you can't that's sort of the lowest bar that a politician needs to pass. Right. And Mamdani was a perfect example of passing that test. Yeah.
No, it's impressive. I had my daughter had shared with me that on Facebook, she had unfriended some of her, middle school classmates over the rhetoric that they were posting about Gaza, sort of like the lack of compassion for children and, what was happening.
It's like a test of a person's moral clarity.
Yeah. And so she had unfriended 2 people and I hadn't encountered that. And yesterday, after the Donnie thing, I noticed one of my friends who no longer lives in Arizona, but I know them, in my social graph, they're like one level over through the yoga community or something. And there was this nasty posting of this kind of like it was like a screenshot of like an Al-Qaeda post on Twitter about how they had finally achieved, their dream to have like the mayor of what. It was so stupid, but they were just posting it and they were even arguing over whether it was real. And they'd be like, "Yes, it is real." No, I've seen that it's a in Snopes or something. And they're like, no, my friend told me it was real. And it was like, and I just was like, what? Why am I following? Why am I even, is this person in my social graph? Like I have no interest in arguing with them. I just don't need their input. Thanks.
Totally. Yeah. So and people will criticize that and say, well, you should be open to different points of view. And you're like, where's the point of view there?
There's no point of view.
Like I am open to different points of view. If somebody was actually expressing a point of view rather than just like reposting dumb propaganda, right?
Yeah.
Like there's a difference between a point of view and just like ignorance.
Right. And one thing that popped up was a long article in the New York Times this morning about how Chuck Schumer has never endorsed Mamdani.
Yeah.
And if you were Chuck Schumer, like Mamdani won 79% in Chuck Schumer's Brooklyn borough, like in his Brooklyn area, where he's from. And so like clearly like the people Jewish people in New York who supported Mamdani would not be horrified by Chuck Schumer saying, this guy has a lot going on. Like I agree with this guy, but there's some weird thing happening in the back rooms where he's like the Zionist, what do they call lobbyists are like, don't you dare open your mouth about Israel.
So just your version of that, what's happening is that's making my exact point too, right? It's like, because you look at Chuck Schumer and you go, he's not willing to or able to just speak the truth out loud, right? So there's some reason for that.
Yeah.
Like you see something and you go, there's an obvious reality, objective reality that I can see with my own eyes.
Yeah.
And Mamdani is willing to acknowledge that is reality and Chuck Schumer is not. So like, what is the actual reason? And so it doesn't really matter what the reason is. Maybe there's some background. Like, I agree with you. It's probably exactly what you're saying. He's deeply entangled with AIPAC, and, that's where he gets his money. He has very powerful Zionist, probably donors and stuff, right? And he just can't offend them.
Right.
But so that's it, right? Like, nobody wants that.
I know. Yeah.
Nobody wants that except those donors, right?
Let's talk about AOC for a second, because two things. At the end of the article, they were saying, hey, Chuck.
You said AOC?
AOC, yeah. Chuck Schumer is kind of they were saying how he's looking down the barrel of this political gun that he, obviously if he doesn't notice that his party needs to change.
Yeah.
Then he's going to be thrown out of office, and AOC is going to run against him and beat him in the primary. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because he's 74, so in 2 years he would be 76. He's getting old. Like, it's time for him to move on. Mm-hmm. But I think that's a really interesting thing. I think that to me. Okay, so AOC yesterday she came out and gave this like little sort of chisme in Colombian. That means like gossip, like the gossip about why is Marjorie Taylor Greene saying the things she's saying. She was on Bill Maher.
Yeah. She's like resurfaced as this sort of, she's trying to remake herself or something.
Totally.
She's telling, or she's like, some veil has been lifted. Who knows? So what was AOC's version of that? Well,
AOC's. So I watched Marjorie Taylor Greene on Bill Maher, and I watched had that horrifying experience. Sorry to jump around so much, but like the one thing that Marco Rubio and I agree on is that we should get rid of daylight savings.
Yeah,
that's like probably the only thing. The only thing. It's like causes.
So yeah, we should. I mean, just to shout out, you forgot that California, and I didn't remember, California and Arizona are on different times now, which is, it's super annoying. Yeah, like it's totally annoying.
To be clear, it's even more annoying than people think, because parts of Arizona, like the Apache reservation, do use daylight savings,
right.
And the southern part, like the main Phoenix, and
nobody has ever given a good reason for it. Like
we don't do it.
People will explain why we still have it, but it's never a good reason.
Right. Like and the thing is, we in this part of Arizona where I live, we don't use daylight savings at all. So we just keep the time the same. And everyone else bounces back and forth or not, it's just so annoying. But
so go back to AOC, and Margaret and MTG. So
what
funny how both of those, they're like these weird, like in the movie, that the script, right? Yeah, they are these foils of each other.
Yeah, totally.
And they both go by their initials, right?
It's true.
They're both known by their initials.
By 3-letter initials. But so I watched I'm watching Marjorie Taylor Greene on Bill Maher, and I'm thinking, this is such a trippy experience. Like, I'm agreeing with 7 of the 11 things we're talking about. Like with her, like
it's
she's saying, And so one of the things she said on Bill Maher was, hey, in the northwest corner of Georgia that I represent, there are two main components of the economy. There's a huge industry that makes wood flooring, and they ship it out all over the world, and they need to input products. They need to buy wood from places, and they need to ship, they finish it and they ship it out. She goes, and then there's farmers. And both groups have come to me and they say, Marjorie, we are putting our rent on credit cards.
Yeah,
we cannot survive. What's happening with tariffs and the economy, like it is not sustainable. We can't afford health insurance. Like what the actual fuck, like small businesses. Right. So that's her constituency. So you see that as a pressure, like if those are...
Right, if that's really happening, if that's really what's happening, it makes sense. Like those are her constituents and it makes sense that they would be loud right now in her ear because they are being hurt for real.
And so it sounds like they move as a monolith.
So that doesn't, that doesn't like register with me as any kind of dishonesty. That seems to be probably what's actually happening. She's not misrepresenting that. Yeah. Anyway, continue.
So AOC just summed it up in what I think is a very comedic way.
She's so good.
She's so good. But she basically posted, I think it was yesterday, she posted this. She goes, does everyone want to know the real reason, like the backroom reason? She goes, on the Hill, everyone knows that Marjorie Taylor Greene announced to her, to the White House and their the campaign machine that she wants to run for Senate in Georgia. Yeah. And the White House said, no, we won't support you. And that she's going on a revenge tour. She's just so pissed off. That's according to AOC. Like, interesting. I don't know. I mean, AOC would know more about the backroom gossip than I would.
So like the revenge tour thing, I was going to say, I could see her trying to position herself as somebody who's more serious and more reasonable in order to make a Senate run. Because the Senate is a more serious body than the House.
Yeah.
So it could be either or both of some combination of both those things.
Because when she stood up during the State of the Union and shouted like, liar, liar, like that's so ridiculous and comedic that you don't want to be, no senator should do that.
Oh, like, I mean, that's just one of a million things. The Jewish space lasers obviously being like the famous one, right? And there's so many things. And her feud with AOC, like almost got physical a couple times, right? Like there was the times when she tried to go barge into AOC's office.
That's right.
On camera. Yeah. I don't think AOC was there at the time, but yeah,
there was
stuff like
that time when she followed David Hogg around, like just like harassing him, and it was like, who the fuck does that? That was that before.
She's such an odious person. But I heard a clip of her. I don't really watch TV news, but I get like in my feed sometimes on Substack, I'll see clips, and one clip I saw was her. Somebody was asking, it was some news show where she was on, and they were asking her about some of her like crazy beliefs and does she believe this stuff anymore? And she was like, I was a victim of misinformation and propaganda like a lot of people. So I thought, it's really interesting to see this side. There was just on the AOC, I think this relates a little bit on the AOC topic. I don't know if you remember this, and I don't remember which other rep it was in the House. But there was a rep that kind of challenged her to go speak to his constituents, and I think Missouri or maybe Kentucky, like one of those red states down there, and was like it was sort of like, I dare you to go to my district and talk to my voters, like, and his challenge was kind of like they would laugh you out of town was sort of like the subtext, right? Mm-hmm. And she was like, sure, I'll go talk to them. Because the fact is, like with people on the ground, like working people, the progressive message really resonates. And you see organizations like A More Perfect Union, that is a union advocacy organization. You might be familiar with them, being a union advocate yourself. But A More Perfect Union is constantly going through those parts of the country, and they're heavily progressive organization, but their main thing is unions. Mm-hmm. And the stuff they say resonates with people. These are all Trump voters that they talk to, but they're working people, right? Yeah. And it kind of goes back to what I was saying about, I don't think people just think about the issues that much. They just sort of like, oh, this shit's not working, I'll vote for this guy, right? And those people are obviously lying. Trump is being who he is, so I'm not going to go with the people who are obviously gaslighting me. I'm going to go with Trump, who I don't really like, but he's at least not trying to gaslight me or whatever, right? He just is that guy. That kind of stuff, right? So they're not thinking about policy and unions and who's pro-union and tariffs, and they're not thinking about any of that. But anyway, what I was going to say is, so this guy challenged AOC, and she was like, sure, I'll go talk to your voters. And you go talk to my voters. Like, why don't we do that? Like, she was like, that's a great idea. You go to Queens. Why don't you meet my constituents?
Did they do it?
And then he chicken shitted out of that so fast.
Wow. Yeah.
Because he suddenly realized, wait, if she goes and talks to my voters, whoa, they will like her.
Right.
She's really good at this.
Yeah, she's really good at this. Right. She's a good.
And I don't like. I'm afraid of her going there and my voters liking her better than they like me, because that's honestly a valid fear, I think.
Yeah. No.
So like he backed out of that so fast and just wouldn't let her go to his district.
That's funny.
Yeah. I'll have to find out. I'll put that in the show notes, but it was a few years ago.
Yeah. No, I'm a big AOC fan, and certainly, I said
She's just such a talented politician.
Really. It's like,
and she must have a really good staff too, because when she does like those hearings where she's grilling like a CEO or whatever, she asks fantastic questions.
She does. She really does. Well, one thing because when I got into doing these videos for the Democratic Party back in I guess it was leading up to 2020. Like that was my big entree. And maybe it was, I guess 2020. So anyway, I remember thinking that like my friend was always like, who's been in politics. He ran for office and lost in the primary, and it was kind of nasty. Like people accused him of like, doing some like hugging too long or something like that. It was almost like a
during like the Me Too era where there was a lot of sensitivity around that.
Yeah, so like this, someone someone defamed him in that way, and then he lost the primary.
Yeah.
And so he hasn't run again. But you could tell he'd be a really, really charismatic speaker, and he's super progressive. But he's always like, hey, we're looking for the next talent. Like you should run for state house or something. You should run for like one of these positions. Yeah. And I said, two things that keep me from doing it. One, I think I'm actually too grumpy. Like when people, like when people are saying stupid shit. Like, and I know that from the corporate world when I had to like shift us into a global website and the people were like, what happened to ventana.com? Like this totally non-compliant, weird like site that didn't serve anyone. And they were so attached to it. And I just got so grumpy. I was just like, I wanted to shout like, stop being so stupid.
No, I get grumpy at work too there's certain things will just put me off. It's like busy work, unnecessary busy work, or it's like, just like thick-headedness when it's like, how have you, I've tried to explain this to you 7 times in 7 different ways, and you still don't get it. That shit will trip me off, right? Or just people just operating in just dumb, incompetent ways, right? Like just. Yeah. So same thing. I get super grumpy about that.
And I know that from 7 years in the corporate world when like I was supposed to be really like the political advocate for a new program, and everyone was against it, and they were saying mean things about it, and my boss and I was just like, it's like trying to drag a rock up a hill, it just feels so stupid. So that's one data point. The other one is, I feel like, do you remember, and this is my mom and I share this fact where we're really bad at comebacks. Like we think of
it's
the
like
perfect,
when you walk away from the conversation and like an hour later you're like, damn it, I should have said.
Or even like 2 beats too late.
Yeah,
like it's
2 beats later.
Just too late. And I like like we're 1-2 sentences away from, and I think of the perfect comeback, and my mom is like, I'm the same way.
So frustrating.
And remember, have you ever heard of probably my favorite?
That'd be a good Saturday Night Live character. Anyway, the guy who's just like a little too late with the comeback, but like says it anyway, like,
and everyone's
like
already left
later.
the table, and
everybody's already moved on.
That's a great idea for a skit.
Anyway,
so Winston Churchill, one of my favorite comeback lines is, and I think
he's got a bunch of them. Yeah,
I think it was Peggy, what's her name, the American scion that became a British representative.
I don't know.
The bottom part of like there's a place in Manhattan that we used to walk around that was east of Washington Square Park. I'll think of it, but and it was this very wealthy woman who had moved to England and married a British guy and became a representative.
It wasn't one of the Schuyler sisters, Peggy Schuyler.
It was
like in Hamilton.
No.
Angelica. Peggy. I'm Peggy.
No. So anyway, so she was famous for being really snarky, and she said, if I was your wife, I would put poison in your coffee in the morning. And he just said back, he's quipped back, if you were my wife, I would drink it. And I was like, it's such a good comeback, right? It's such a good comeback. And I was like, I wish I had that. So I feel like people like AOC, there's something that they're able to do. Let's say they're on CNN and someone asks them a question. They can just organically, with such ease, slip in where it's not like they're spitting out memorized sound bites. They can just tell this story in a way that is so well done, and it's like a talent,
It's
right?
just it's political talent.
Yeah, I don't
in
have
a
it.
nutshell. It's like a combination of, I mean, political talent includes charisma. It's a kind of charisma she has, and Mamdani obviously has.
Yeah.
He's really good, and he does the same thing. Like people will ask him questions, and challenging questions, or the same question, the tedious question that he's heard 100 times. And are you hearing notifications from my computer?
No, not at all.
Okay.
No.
Because this is going to be my first world problem. But anyway, talented questions. I mean, talented politician. So like he has such a graceful way, and so does she. Of like when that annoying question comes for the 20th time, he doesn't get annoyed, right? When the question comes where he just doesn't know the answer, he doesn't get annoyed. He has a graceful way of like explaining what he does know and doesn't know, right? She does too. And when the gotcha question comes and he, that's trying to corner you, and he doesn't get got. And so she's good at that too. So I think like there's just a natural political talent that some people have, and those two definitely have it. Yeah.
One of the things that and I'm just for fun, I'm just kind of looking at two examples. Like one of my coworkers at Roche said, I always bring MiLo along to meetings because if I'm trying to sell something, if he believes in it, his enthusiasm is infectious. So everyone else thinks like, wow, something about my enthusiasm. Like I have like, a serotonin thing that like, or it's like, well, not serotonin. What is the dopamine? I have I have a high dopamine dynamic range. So like if I like a muffin, I'm like, whoa, it's amazing. It's like so that's a good salesman because if I don't believe in it, it doesn't help, right?
Yeah.
So she used to bring me along to these meetings, and I'd be like, why am I here? And she'd be like, just because. You're like this. It's like I'm the bad cop and you're a good cop, but you're the salesman. So I present the thing, everyone hates it, and then you convince them to like it. And I'm like, oh, I didn't realize that was a thing. So anyway, that was one thing. And then the other thing is, I think, and this is a funny thing to say, but like, I'm not really good at juggling complex things in my head. Like I could never do word problems in my head. My sister used to be like, what's wrong with you? And I'd be like, I have to write it down on paper because I can only hold like 2 or 3 concepts that go together in this complex puzzle at once. Yeah. And so what I do, and I noticed when I watched the Ruth Bader Ginsburg documentary, she does it too, is I like to take a complex thing, look at it, and then I say, for my own benefit, I try to boil it down to its lowest primes, like 2 times 3 times 5, right? And so Ruth Bader Ginsburg would say, like, she'd listen to some complex argument, and she'd be like, okay, let me get this straight. So I'm on a bicycle, and I arrive at a stop sign. Like she takes it down to the analogies. Like I come up with analogies, and I do it because I don't understand the thing, and I need to find an analogy that lets me see into the simplicity of the construct. Does that make sense? Yeah. I'm not doing it to manipulate anyone, and I'm simply doing it because I don't get it. And so I'm trying to understand it. So I come up with an analogy, and I usually ask someone, so is it like this? Is it like I arrive at the stop sign?
I think you and I are similar in that way. Like I do that well, and it's mostly so I can grasp the thing.
Exactly. Yeah. That's it. So it's not like I'm trying to manipulate someone or sell something. I'm literally trying to understand it better myself. And I do think, so I don't know, when I look at politicians speaking, when I look at someone on like a talking head being interviewed, I don't know that, I think that might come in handy in some situations, but I don't think it works in politics that well. You know what I mean? To like be good at analogies. I think it just doesn't, I don't know. It may.
Maybe very, very strategically, like very intentionally, it helps people. I think when a politician can recognize that this is a thing that people are just not getting. What if I framed it like this, and they come up with like the perfect analogy? Maybe there's a context where that's really useful, probably. But I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, and to spin it, like I was talking to my wife about. The fact that, we haven't had, other than Donald Trump, who was a reality show host, America's only elected senators, governors, and generals. Like no congressman, no mayor has ever been elected president. We've only elected people who have been senators, governors.
Not that many senators even.
Yeah, but governors a lot, and then like
Lot of
four or five generals, right? And I went to look at. I also said there was a young woman who was running against Adelita Grijalva in my district, and she was like 26 years old, really talented, but she had zero experience. Like she had done she worked at a Circle K or something, and like then now she was in college, and it was like, please go get some experience. Like, please just work on the school board or work for the neighborhood or something to show that you like.
Well, yeah, I mean, so like that's kind of my argument against like people who are really pro term limit, right? And that's a big bugaboo for some people. Like there should be term limits on these people, get them out, right? I actually totally disagree with that. Like I feel like being experienced. I feel like it's complicated. Like what happens in Washington and what happens between Washington and these people's districts, like all of that is complicated, and it takes time to learn how to do that job, just like any job. But any complicated job is going to take you a while to be good at it, right? And it's true they spend too much time like fundraising and stuff, but that's not about being there too long. They all have to do that. I think that, we have this natural term limit mechanism called voting, that if you don't like them, vote for somebody else, right? Like that's the term limit. They all have term limits in that sense. Yeah. So I kind of my if I could do the election reforms that I would champion are not term limits, or like the political reforms, election reforms. I'm a big champion of open primaries. I think there should be open primaries, because I think like one of our hugest problems is these people from both parties. If you only have Republicans voting for you in your district, then you just have to pander to the most extreme, insane people.
Right.
To kind of win the primary, and then you're the candidate, right?
Yep.
But if you have to appeal to everybody in your district, that's just going to bring a different kind of politics. Totally. So open primaries would be maybe the biggest one I would champion. Publicly funded elections.
Yes, I totally
and get rid of
agree.
Citizen United. So publicly funded elections would be one of my top three, and then ranked choice voting.
Can I elaborate? Oh, can I elaborate?
Those would be my top three.
Ranked choice voting, which California has, right? I mean, I love that. So the publicly funded one, I've said this a lot about like the presidency. I think a really interesting test would be for like the presidential candidate. Like if you reach a certain threshold of signatures, we give you $10 million, and that's all you can spend. That's part of it, is to show us what you do with $10 million, because everyone gets the same amount. And so show us that you're really capable at using your dollars wisely and efficiently. And so I think that would be a really interesting test. How do you feel about, for instance, in Ecuador?
I'm just going to add one more.
Yeah, sure.
A computer drawn districts.
No
panel, no redistricting committees and panels made of people.
What I say is, what if you slapped a grid on it?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because
I'm trying to find like the
voters
most
are so concentrated in some areas and not, right? Like
that's true. Yeah,
the state of Wyoming has fewer people than Brooklyn has.
Right. No.
So like when Mamdani is like the mayor of New York, like he's mayor. His constituency as mayor is like Wyoming, both Dakotas, Idaho, Nebraska.
No, I totally get it. And
that's like his constituency is like that side, that in terms of population. But anyway, yeah. So like a grid doesn't quite do it, but yeah.
I'm looking for sort of a way that you can't, that no one could go in. I mean, I'm sure you could go in and make the grid bigger or smaller to gerrymander in a different way. But so to elaborate on how the computer would decide.
I don't know. You'd have to have an algorithm
that makes the districts as even as possible. Is that what the idea would be?
I think so.
Yeah. Because I mean, that would be an amazing thing, is if the districts were as close to 50-50 as possible.
That's what I think districts should aim for. And then what
do you do with independence?
And then parties stop mattering as much, and the individual policies start to matter more.
We have an interesting thing in Arizona, because my understanding is, and I've looked at a couple of different small state districts, So I think across the state, like I've looked at, and it was like registered Republicans in, let's say, LD, Legislative District 17. Registered Republicans were 34%. Democrats were 28%, and the remainder were independents.
Yeah.
And the independents are not party affiliated, so they don't get to vote in.
They don't even get to vote in the primaries.
Right, it's terrible.
Yeah.
Which is like,
or there's some weird process. So like some states, I don't know, with closed primaries, do have a mechanism where like you can get some kind of special ballot if you're independent. You can vote in the Democratic primary or the Republican primary. You have to pick one, that kind of thing.
Interesting, huh?
You know, like there's weird rules around being an independent and participating in primaries. But I think open primaries plus computer-drawn districts, those two things would work in tandem pretty well.
So I like that. And especially if the algorithm the computer was using was trying to create the most fairness or balance.
Yeah, if it was each district was as even as possible, then the parties almost don't even matter at that point. It's really just the individual candidates and the particular policies. I think people might pay attention more to policies at that point rather than like the blue or red because So since we're doing like a dream up, you know how like if I was in charge of the world thing, I think it's a fun thing to do. So what do you think about, and do you see any downsides? For instance, a friend of mine, her husband is from Ecuador, and if you're required to vote, at least in the presidential election. And if you don't vote, you get fined like $47, like on your tax return. Like you have to get. So like there is a penalty. You don't obviously have to vote, but it hurts. Like it's like a nice dinner. Like you're losing out on something if you don't vote. And the other thing is, my wife always says, "Why the f do you guys have the elections on Tuesdays?" Yeah.
Everyone else
voting
around the
should be a
world,
holiday.
Sunday,
Voting should be a holiday.
Fucking holiday or on a
should
Sunday.
Should be Saturday or it should be a holiday. Yeah.
That's crazy, right?
Voting, election day should be a holiday.
But what do you think about the being required to vote?
I don't know. I just I kind of go back to what I said about like people are dumb. Right? I think there's a lot of people that are just like, if they were forced to vote, they would be trolls about it. And they would do like prank, they would just be like, fuck this. Ha ha ha. What I will say that I don't get at all, like it makes me it makes me a little bit angry, sometimes more than a little bit, is people who, I remember that Colin Kaepernick was a very high profile person who said this. And I just I wanted to bang my head against the TV. He said somebody asked him, who are you voting for? It was some years ago. Maybe it was Obama election, right?
Sure,
It might have been Obama versus McCain or whatever. And he said, well, I've never voted. And people, the person was like, what? What do you mean you've never voted? He goes, yeah, I think the system's corrupt. I don't vote. I don't support the system, right? Like, I don't support the system.
Common sentiment, yeah.
So it's just like, dude, you are supporting the system by not voting.
Yeah.
Like that's literally, you couldn't do more to support the system than not vote.
Yep, it's true. I mean, in a way, also those, like the 89,000 people in Michigan that showed up with Hillary and Trump.
Yeah.
And they voted down ballot and left the top blank. Yeah. And he won by like 12,000 votes. So 89,000 people were, like, as you're saying, trolling the thing by saying, like, we showed up and we're not going to fucking, like that. And they were supposedly, like, a lot of them were Bernie supporters. Yeah. Who were really angry at Hillary, for
totally. And then voting for Jill Stein and shit like that. Yeah. So like, I will say, like, I used to be, so part of the argument I was making at the beginning about just being a candidate who can speak the obvious truth that people can see with their eyeballs, right? Like, so like that is the reason why people say they vote for like a Jill Stein, right? Or something like that. Well, like, or back in the day it was Dennis Kucinich, right? Like, or Ralph Nader, or these spoilers. And they'll be like, well, yeah, that person. And there is a sort of protection that those people have, which is they're never going to be elected. So they can say whatever they want, right? Like they have there's no incentive for those people to compromise with anybody, to compromise their position on anything, because they're never going to win, right? So they can appear to be that courageous person with total integrity who just says the truth. And I used to be I'm still sympathetic to that idea that those people, of course they can because they don't have to think about winning. I'm a little less sympathetic to that argument in the sense that, like, I guess I feel like there should be a separation between how you think about that in the primaries versus the general election. In the primaries, it 100% makes sense to just to penalize the person who can't speak the truth, and to reward the person who has the integrity and courage to actually speak the truth. That should be a thing that guides your vote in the primaries, 100%.
Yep.
But when you're down to two candidates, it becomes a matter of relativity at that point, like the relative difference between them, not the absolute. Nothing. Absolutes should be gone at that point.
Right.
If you have a shit sandwich versus a dirt sandwich, those are your two choices. You don't want either of them. Neither of them is that perfect candidate that you wanted. You have a shit sandwich or a dirt sandwich. But that's it. There's a big difference between being forced to eat a shit sandwich and being forced to eat a dirt sandwich, right?
Yeah, totally.
Like, do you really think it's cool to let other people choose what's going to be shoved down your throat? Like, why wouldn't you vote for the dirt sandwich? If there's a possibility that somebody's going to shove a shit sandwich down your throat, like, why would you just stay back and not vote? You know what I mean?
It's a very...
So, like, when you're down to two choices, you have to choose the better of the two.
Right. There is definitely a cognitive dissonance around the Colin Kaepernick kind of stance.
Yeah.
That the system is corrupt, so I don't participate in it. But, dude, do a little bit of an analysis that by not participating, if en masse...
There's no such thing as not participating in it, for one thing.
Right. Yeah. But by not voting, you're actually...
Yeah. You're supporting the system.
Yeah. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Well,
so that argument is so maddening to me, and a lot of people say that kind of thing.
Okay, so
it's surprising how many people, like when Trump was first elected, the number of people who voted for him who were like, "Yeah, I'm so excited to vote for Trump. I've never voted before." These people are like 55 years old, and you're like, "What the fuck?" Like, there were a lot of people like that. Remember?
Oh my God! Yeah.
I mean, that was kind of one of his biggest voting blocks was just people who never voted.
He activated cracker white trash people in Florida. No, hold on, that had literally they went and registered to vote, and they had been living in the jungle, whatever it's called, the swamp.
It's just so incomprehensible to me that some guy who lives in his pickup truck, who can't afford teeth, is excited to vote for this billionaire from New York.
Yeah, it is.
It's so weird.
The cognitive dissonance around that is stunning, and it will be studied.
It's like the coalition that Trump put together of those people, working people, yoga moms,
right?
And retirees,
QAnon and Confederates, basically.
And they all joined a coalition that also includes Nazis,
right? Nazis.
And you're just like, how does that coalition even a thing? And it goes back to that first thing I said, which is people just don't think about anything beyond the most superficial level bullshit.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess part of my perspective for this episode is because of the sort of what we're calling the blue wave and this kind of renewed interest in, Mamdani's democratic socialism. And so the idea when you jokingly were saying that's why we can't have nice things in America. I'm imagining here's some things that I would like to have if we had a New Deal, a neo-New Deal, right? I do think a very, very practical argument for expanding the Supreme Court is that each justice is supposed to sit on one of the federal districts. And there are more than 9 districts. There's 13 or 15. They're each supposed to represent a district.
When they expanded to 9, that was the reason. That was the ostensible reason, or one of the rationales, right? When they expanded to 9.
It feels like the whole point of having federal districts is that each justice isn't supposed to cover 1.5 districts. They're supposed to go and sit on the appellate, oversee that district. And that to me just seems so obvious, right? The other thing is, I know that it's a complicated issue because there are people in Puerto Rico that don't feel like they want to be a state because of colonialism, or they just had a bad taste in their mouth from. But I feel
it's something it's a 60-40 split. It's not insignificant. Something 60% are in favor and 40% are not.
Yeah.
I mean, if you rule, I don't know how many are undecided, but like I remember reading it some time ago, and it was like it wasn't an overwhelming. It was fairly close to 50-50, but definitely leaning toward wanting to be a state.
And I would argue too that like, because if you're in Puerto Rico, correct me if I'm wrong, but you can vote only if you go to the mainland. You're not allowed to vote for president unless you go to Florida.
Yeah.
And vote in you get registered in Florida, but you're not allowed to vote in a territory. And so to me, it's kind of like that thing of like, well, why don't you want to be a state? Because then you could vote. Like you could actually, and there's things.
Right. Yeah, like no representation, no taxation without representation, like that kind of thing. Like you think that would be a compelling.
Totally.
And like again, maybe it goes back to people just not thinking, right? Like they have this story they tell about what it means to be a state, right? And then there's the other people that have their own story about what it means to be a state. And so there's the no taxation without representation people, and then there's the like, we like being Puerto Rican. It's just some emotional thing, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know.
And what do you think? So Puerto Rico being a state and Washington, D.C., I feel like the people that live in Washington, the District of Columbia, there's a lot of things they're missing out on by not being a state. And I feel like, to me, it seems really logical to have Puerto Rico and the D.C. become states. The idea that why do we have two Dakotas? Like, why are there two Dakotas? So there's like 700,000 people in
There's
one,
like
and
8
500
people across 2 states. Yeah.
It's like, what the fuck? They once did a comparison, like Kamala Harris as a senator represents 65 million people, and the 4 senators from South and North Dakota represent, 1.1 million people, across 2 states. It's just ridiculous. It's like 65 times more representation.
Right, again, like Brooklyn has like, more people than both those states combined or something,
And I know that the history behind the creation of all those territories into states, Montana, Idaho, like that was a fear after the Civil War by the Republicans that the Dixiecrats would come rushing back in and overtake the Senate. And it's partly why in the 14th Amendment, if you were an insurrectionist, you can't run for office ever again, which let's enforce that fucking rule. And so it's hitting us or slapping us back in the face because the Republicans at the time, which were the abolitionists, wanted to prevent the Dixiecrats from taking over the Senate. And so they rapidly spun up North Dakota, South Dakota, Idaho, all these like ridiculous.
It's kind of like what Texas is doing now with the like trying to add 5 more districts or whatever.
Yeah,
and then
redistricts.
It's similar, right? It's a kind of a similar. And the reasoning behind it is very similar.
And Prop 50, I love. I think Gavin Newsom. I think
it's so funny to see the arguments here against Prop 50 were like this power grab by the Democrats and blah blah blah. It's like it wouldn't even be on the table.
Right.
If the Republicans weren't doing this in Texas and trying to do it in the Dakotas,
a lot of other places,
and like talking about it in like 9 other states,
And
like it wouldn't even be on the table. It would never have been on the table here. So this idea that it's some kind of Democrat power grab is just laughable.
Yeah, it's strange to me that the founding fathers didn't address gerrymandering to in some way that was bulletproof from the very beginning, because it seems like it's eventually going to look at who's the guy from Texas with the eye patch?
Crenshaw.
Have you ever looked at his district?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a spirochete that's made out of Legos. It's just it's just fucking unbelievable, right? It's like a spirochete that walked through a cobweb.
Did you ever see that Washington Post like infographic from some years ago that explained how gerrymandering? I still go back to it sometimes if I ever have a need to explain kind of how gerrymandering works and how a district can be drawn differently with I'll find it. It's from the Washington Post a few years ago, but
yeah. The other interesting thing is that what is like, when you were talking about how the average voter just doesn't actually understand what's happening. Like, imagine the idea that sometimes people will say like, well, because a senator runs statewide and a governor runs statewide. So in Arizona, we have, by the skin of our teeth, we have two, by 100,000 people, we have 2 Democratic senators, Democratic governor, attorney general, blah, blah, blah. And then there's so many Siscomani districts that were gerrymandered by the Ducey group.
Right.
And the Raul Grijalva one, or the Adelita Grijalva one, it's mostly like west of Tucson. It goes down to the border. It runs along the border 1 meter wide.
Oh my God.
For hundreds of miles until it gets to Bisbee, and then it reaches up and grabs all of liberal Bisbee. Yeah. It moves east 1 meter along the border until it runs up and gets Douglas, which is a college town. Right. So it's like that Siscomani's district is they just ripped out all the Democrats from his district,
and
Cochise
put them
County,
in their own district,
and threw them into Grijalva. So it's like 89%.
This is such bullshit, right? Like
that should be illegal. Like what the
100%,
fuck?
Right. And so I think like this is the other thing where it's like people say the parties are the same or whatever, but if you look at the districting commissions in states led by Democratic governors and legislatures, they have independent commissions
Arizona
that are bipartisan.
We're supposed to have bipartisan.
They have bipartisan commissions that are like pretty equally represented, right? Yeah. And then you look at place like Texas or any other red state where like the Republicans gained power, they immediately got rid of the bipartisan commission and just had like a governor appointed commission.
Right.
That's just like we don't want to risk losing power, right? So like that happened in pretty much every red state.
And the Voting Rights Act was meant to address that back in the 60s, and then
well, somehow they convinced their voters like Republican voters have this war stance against Democrats. That's just like, we want to destroy the blue. We want to destroy the Democratic Party. We want to destroy the liberal, everything that you could put the L word on. We want to just destroy it, annihilate it from this earth, right?
Yeah.
And so these governors have the support of their voters for this because they're like, yeah, fuck those blue guys, right? Like, so it's really interesting that they've created this kind of mentality. They, through propaganda, whatever, they've produced, and my brothers are fully on board with that. Like they have such rage and contempt towards the left, right?
Wow.
It's so weird. But it's like a war level rage and contempt. Like it's a full-on war stance against the left that they've taken.
Huh.
And I don't think the left has like figured out like, wait, there's like, I don't think the left, the Democrats have sort of like grasped how vehement and passionate and zealous that war stance is among a certain swath of the Republican Party. And the Republican voter base, yeah.
That was a really interesting thing about the last several elections. I went canvassing on behalf of unions to a list of union voters, a list of union members who were voters. And what was sort of fascinating to me and fun was I had this list of, there was never the word Democrat or Republican anywhere in our literature.
Yeah.
It just said labor endorsed candidates. Like we interviewed all the candidates. And we asked them their stance on labor issues, like are they supportive of unions or not? Right. And then we endorsed them. Yeah. And so like some of them might be Republican, but like most of them were Democrats, right? But so like it's interesting to go to someone's house who let's say I went to one of your brothers and they were in the union. Yeah. And my argument was, do you like your union benefits? Yes, I have protections at work. If someone yells at me, I can go to the steward and they come and sit with me in the meeting. I get breaks or whatever. They like their benefits. Why would you vote for a candidate that doesn't support your union? Like why? Like if you like someone who is trying actively to undermine your union's power and take away your benefits, why would you do it? And so 50% or more of union members in Arizona voted against the endorsed candidate list. Yeah. But what was interesting was I was going to talk to them not as a Republican or a leftist, but as a union representative. But
that's not the lens they look through, right?
Yeah. When they went to the vote, they didn't think about the union.
They see through this other lens. It's like blue or red. And it's interesting how that has percolated down through everything. It's like every issue is either a blue, like climate change can't be an issue independent of being a Democrat issue, right? You know what I mean? Like nobody would you can't support like the environment or climate change legislation or anything like that if you're Republican, because you just automatically associate that as that's just a blue issue, right?
Right.
And even with something like a mass shooting when it occurs, there's this like pause afterwards when we don't know who did it, right? And it's like, which team was he on?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's like the thing. That's like this sort of this silent, secret thing everybody's doing. It's like, which team was that guy on? I hope he wasn't on my team.
Right. It's such a bizarre, like, and speaking
So
of
it's like
speaking of
polluted
gun
everything.
gun violence, like one thing that baffles me, like the cognitive dissonance thing around gun control, is, for instance, when you look at Uvalde and there were 400 dudes out there, and they knew that his AR-15 could pierce their body armor.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't rush the door.
Right.
So, and first of all, can't they just
wouldn't
get
do
a
their
fucking
job.
Can't they just get a fucking shield and go? Like, I just don't. It seems to me like there's practical ways to get there without getting shot.
Just the fact that they're paid to go into they're paid to face danger. That's their whole
Right.
That's their actual job. Like that's what they're paid to do. Like they're paid to possibly sacrifice themselves.
Yeah.
To save other people. That's
it's true.
Like that's literally the job.
Yeah. I mean, and there was like, I remember in Dallas, there was a shooter they tracked him down after shooting at a parade, and he was in a parking garage, and they just used a fucking robot. Like they put a robot, and they had a flashbang grenade, and he was like throwing up at it's like just what the, okay. So my point is, why doesn't that cohort of law enforcement officers who are paid to go into harm's way to protect you or whatever, why don't they lobby? Why aren't they part
100%
of the
they used to.
loud
Like they were big
bullhorn?
advocate. Like they were one of the most reliable constituencies in favor of gun control.
Yeah.
But it's again this red-blue split that happened where it's like, oh, my team doesn't support that. Like in fact, the police unions and stuff used to be pretty heavily Democratic in terms of their voting. And they used to vote for gun control. And so, but like there's this MAGA sort of like takeover of law enforcement that happened.
Wow.
Over in the Trump era.
It's impressive.
This machismo. I think it's a machismo thing. I don't think it has anything to do with policy. But now that they're on the red team, they can't possibly support gun control because that's a blue issue.
But not running in to save little kids when a shooter has an AR-15 is not machismo at all. Like you lose your man card.
It's the opposite
you lose
of
your
machismo.
hero card.
They just hope nobody remembers it. Yeah.
Just go burn your man card.
Those people should have to wear
macho.
a T-shirt for the rest of their lives that says, like I chickened out at Uvalde.
Yeah. And I'm not voting against, like a 19-year-old kid.
The other thing about the gun control debate that bugs the shit out of me is like there is gun control.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like we've set this weird arbitrary line where they will argue, well, we don't want gun control. There is gun control. You can't you can't put like an anti-aircraft battery on your roof, right?
No.
Like
you can't have a grenade.
You can't have an M60 mounted on your car.
No.
Right?
In fact, it's illegal to have a sawed-off shotgun. It's illegal to have...
There is gun control.
Tons of rules.
So the idea that like, the cutoff is, well, we don't want to introduce gun control. There already is gun control. We've just decided this arbitrary cutoff that doesn't include the AR-15 assault-style rifle, right? Like, or whatever, right? So that's below the cutoff or above the cut, whatever it is. And it's weirdly arbitrary because it's not like the founders were like, oh, we're going to write this Second Amendment and it's going to, like the people who are like, oh, I read the Second Amendment, it says you can't take my guns. So it's like, we don't let you buy fucking machine gun, right? You can't have an Uzi at home. So in America, like that's illegal. So yeah, we already do take your guns or like prevent you from having certain guns.
I was at a Democratic fundraiser sort of like rally down in Green Valley, which is like a retirement community. And this was exactly a year ago, maybe a year and a month. Yeah. And there was a guy down there who's like a well-known, he's like part of the filmmaking community. He owns a bunch of like retro toy trains. So like people use them to like shoot, they pretend they're real big trains. He rents them out and I was talking to him. We were just sort of standing off to the side waiting for the next speaker. And we started chatting about guns. And I asked him, I said this same argument about why can't we get all law enforcement to get on board with banning the AR-15? And he goes, oh, you're talking to the wrong guy. Because I actually have a bunch of like antique Tommy guns and real machine guns, and I have licenses for them. I'm allowed to own them. And he goes, I'm super pro, having guns, right? And I said, wait a second. How about this, man? If you look at the number of school shooters that are under the age of 21 who are legally able to buy an AR-15, could we, all of us, every single buddy who's over 21, could we just agree that you have to be 21 to buy an AR-15? And he kind of was like, I said, let's throw the 19-year-olds under the fucking bus. Like, there's plenty of things that we agree they can't have alcohol before 21. Yeah. Why do they get to buy an AR-15? And so many of the school shooters legally bought an AR-15 when they were 19 fucking years old. Like, let's agree.
If you poll almost any reasonable gun control policy measure like that, like they're overwhelmingly, like supported, right? So like, even throughout the Republican Party, stuff like that, and background checks and universal background checks, all these things are like that the party officially opposes because the NRA pays them to oppose these things. They're all very popular ideas, right? That would be one of them, right? Like you probably, even if you polled Republican voters, you'd probably get like a 75%. Yeah, let's do that, but they still won't do it.
So what was interesting, because I was really disappointed when we did pass that like wimpy legislation after the big shooting,
Yeah.
I forget which period it was, but I was like, why not the 21? Because that gets rid of a big problem with school shootings.
No, it's totally true. Yeah.
And then
the gun show loophole, that's another one that's pretty popular.
The other bizarre thing is the amount of when you said the NRA pays them.
Yeah.
Have you looked at the amount of? It's not a lot of money.
No.
It's like $35 million. And guess who got the most? $13 million. Mitt Romney. Like that's who has received the most from the NRA over the last 10 years. And I'm like, $35 million is bullshit.
No,
like
it's not that much, yeah.
Well, why do they have this disproportionate power over everyone if they don't even spend that much money?
I mean, like literally one billionaire could probably
wipe it out.
Erase that, yeah.
We could pay all the people to support banning the AR-15, and then it would be like $60 million. Like
it's just another good argument against billionaires.
It's strange, right? Isn't it an odd thing that how
it is,
disproportionate?
Yeah, it's totally odd.
Yeah.
I mean, I think their profile is exceeds their pocketbook, maybe.
Somehow, for sure.
For whatever reason. Yeah.
I mean, weird digression, but like back a bunch of years ago, maybe 5 or 7 years ago, people were looking at Vladimir Putin and wondering how the fuck does the guy punch so far above his weight? His economy is the size of Italy's.
Yeah.
And it's 50% of the economy is oil sales.
I mean, they're a nuclear power. That definitely helps. You definitely get some clout points on planet Earth if you're a nuclear power.
But I'm talking about like what he spent in Syria and what we spent in Syria to put our stamp there. He spent like $25 million and we spent $2.5 trillion in Iraq and northern Iraq to like stomp out Al-Qaeda. And he gets the same amount of money for bang for his buck. And it's like, that's genius that you can be such a poor country relatively. I mean, they make less money. Their GDP is less than Mexico.
Yeah. Yeah,
but
it's
he punches
when you think
way
about like
above his weight.
It makes me think of like traveling in poor countries, and you'll see like people doing incredible things with very little resources, right? He's like that at a country level.
Yeah, totally.
You're like, oh, that look at those people. Look at how those people have kept their car going. Oh my God, that's pretty ingenious, right? Like.
Yeah, like Cuba. Like when I'll
look
go
what they're
visit
doing to get water into their house. Holy shit, that's amazing, right? He's that guy.
I'll go to my Colombian I'll go to Colombia to visit the family around Christmas time, and we'll go back and forth between Medellin and you've been for the wedding, Medellin and Bogota. Yeah. And I'll be walking around Medellin, and I'll be looking at all the infrastructure and like the super clean subway and like the telefericos going up the hill, and I'll say, hey, are taxes, like property taxes in Bogota, more expensive than Medellin? And they go, yeah, like 2 or 3 times more expensive. And I'm like, what do you get for the money? Like in Bogota, you have like fucking potholes. There's no train. There's no subway. There's no elevated train. There's just like a terrible bus line that is like constantly stuck in traffic. And you're like, what the fuck? And my wife just said, well, it's corruption. Like Medellin has had a bunch of liberal socialist mayors. that we're able to just convince everyone we all will benefit from doing these infrastructure improvements with the money we do have.
I remember seeing, it was sometime during like the health universe. It was in the context of like a debate about an argument about universal health care, right? And somebody was arguing that they were making a very compelling argument that like universal health care would be better and cheaper, not just like you would cover more people, and it would be cheaper. Like you get this, we have like anything with a middleman like insurance companies just automatically almost is more expensive, right? You put these insurance companies in the middle and they have to skim off stuff and they have to, right? So they were making a pretty compelling argument that not only would it be cheaper, it would be better, it would cover more people. And this person on the sort of the opposition side of that argument was kind of like getting for more and more cornered because their opposition to it was more ideological than anything else. It wasn't about like they started with the money argument. Well, how much would it cost? And it's like, we'd have to wait in line like Canada. You have to wait, right? It's like, when was the last time you booked an appointment for anything and didn't wait in America, right?
Yeah.
Like
Holy shit.
We already wait like crazy, right?
Trying to get a new doctor.
It's not like that would be,
months.
it's not like we already wait. Like all the stuff that you're complaining about already are problems. Like, So anyway, this person was sort of like their arguments are getting chipped away. And what they landed on in the end was, I don't care if my healthcare is worse and more expensive as long as I'm not paying for people who don't deserve it. You know what I mean? So there's this thing that you run into sometimes with like this sort of libertarian, don't take my tax money kind of person. That's sometimes where they land, which is just like, you can make my life bad as long as you're not using my money to make other people's lives better.
So one thing I wanted to point out,
it's insane. And that person probably like a Christian too. They probably have like a love Jesus in their social profiles and all that. But anyway, yeah.
And I had read about that America used to have public swimming pools all across the country.
Mm-hmm.
And that people were willing to not have a swimming pool so they didn't have to share it with
black people.
With black, And so there's a lot of communities where they just closed it down.
It's like, we'd rather not have a pool at all than have one that we have to share with those people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So one thing,
it's exactly the same thing as that.
Okay, so here's an interesting argument against or pro socialized medicine from let's say 1 year I was making $100,000 at Roche was for my take home salary.
Yeah.
And I paid 32% taxes, like income tax and whatever it was scraped. Roche paid for the four of us, for my two daughters and my wife, $28,000 for fairly shitty, very high deductible United Healthcare.
What's weird is why don't corporations all lobby for public health care?
Yeah, I have the same. That's the same.
It's the super weirdest thing, right?
It is so weird.
They had a chance to do it back in the day.
Yeah, and like they have to. So
they opposed it like crazy. And it's like, why? You wouldn't you decided, you raised your hand. Instead of having the government pay for this thing, you corporations decided you wanted to pay for it? Super weird.
So look at that number. So $100,000, 33% tax.
Yeah.
28,000 of it is, I don't see it, and it's going to the healthcare. What if you paid me that and then taxed me? Yeah. Then we'd be at 60% tax, like Canada. Like, what is Canada's tax? Like
100%.
We're already fucking there. Like we're already fucking doing it.
Yeah.
And people just don't want to admit it. It's like the elephant in the room is that we're paying socialized medicine prices with shitty coverage.
Not only that, we have socialized medicine in a weird corporate way, like in a capitalist way, because it's like that whole argument, like, I don't want to pay for other people's healthcare. You already are. That's the definition of insurance.
Yeah, and when someone goes to a rural hospital and needs something, they're required to provide that, and so we end up.
Yeah, even within your network and your insurance company, you're paying. The whole point of insurance is to pay for that person who's getting the operation. Like you're paying for their operation by putting money into the insurance pool.
And that doesn't even examine the idea that a capitalist system of medicine has no incentive to keep anyone well.
No.
Because you make more money when someone's sick. You you can treat the symptoms of their
100%.
sickness. So like in
So
a
it's the
socialized
opposite.
system,
There's just
the
like
whole thing should be
it's flawed from top to bottom,
from the root.
and every
like,
argument against
DNA
it
seed.
makes no sense.
Yeah, it's so ridiculous.
I mean, every argument against universal health care makes no. I've never encountered one that makes sense.
Yeah. It's just my daughter, who's at med school at UCLA, she took a course in freshman year that was the history of how during the New Deal, the one thing that didn't make it through was universal health care.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
like companies
could have done
companies
Yep.
could have been like not on the hook for paying for this shit.
Yeah.
Corporate America could have like just been out of that game entirely, and for whatever reason they didn't want to be. I don't really get it at all.
It's so bizarre, and they complain about how the rates go up, and they're
Yeah.
like, and they this idea that they're stuck in this cycle where there is this bizarre argument that it's one of the perks, like I can attract better play because I have better healthcare.
Yeah.
It's like nobody loves no one goes like,
Right.
oh my God, I went to work for Roche.
As long as it's not totally shitty.
Yeah, but they give you 3 options, and there's like a really, really shitty option, and then a super expensive HMO, and like it just,
Yeah,
I think the whole thing is crazy.
it's very crazy. Yeah.
Do you want to do first world problems?
Yeah. So my first world problem, as I alluded to earlier, is that so I put my computer on do not disturb, right? And I'm getting bing, bing, bing in the background. Something is notifying the shit out of me, like every 10 seconds. It's super distracting. And
Sorry.
I'm assuming it's in a browser tab somewhere, like it's in my Chrome browser.
Yeah.
But I was trying to find it it's been going on for days. I've been, and I have a lot of tabs, right? And there's no way in Chrome, there's no like thing, like if you have a video playing or something, there's a little speaker icon on the tab that's playing, which is sometimes hard to find. You're like, what is that song coming from? Right?
Yeah, it's terrible.
And you're like scanning through all your tabs, and finally you see like the little speaker, and you're like, there it is. Well, with notifications, there's no way to figure out which tab is notifying the shit out of me, right? There's no like notification bar where you can go and see my notification history for Chrome, which would be super useful.
That would be really so nice.
According to ChatGPT or Gemini or one of these AIs, it's like, there's browser extensions that give you a notification history. I searched, I couldn't find one because I was like, I'll install that just to see where these notifications are coming from. No, there's no extension that I could find that does that. So anyway, I think the only thing I can do is kind of a nuclear option is just to close all my browser windows with all my tabs and just kind of, which is, that's sort of an appealing option in a way anyway. There's probably a lot of tabs I haven't looked at in a while.
It's true.
I don't remember why I left that tab there. And in theory, I was going to come back and read that page later or whatever, right?
I do exactly the same thing. And I remember at Roche IT, I was complaining that my computer was running really slowly before the M1s.
Yeah.
And I brought it to IT. The guy goes, bring it over. Let me look at it. And he opens it and he goes, you have 76 browser tabs open. Why don't you try closing those? And I did, and it actually went a lot faster. So I was like, ugh.
You know what I hate is when you have that kind of thing. Everything's super slow, and you're like, what is? And then you try to open like Activity Monitor, and just like getting your mouse to click on Activity Monitor, like there's such a lag. Just in like, is it going to open? I clicked on that. You know what I mean? And then you're waiting for Activity Monitor to open.
A terrifying feeling is when you go to do the force quit in Activity Monitor and it freezes.
Oh, yeah.
That's a horrible feeling because you have to power off and you're like, ugh.
My Activity Monitor, this is a bonus first world problem, but the thing that is eating so much CPU all the time on my Mac is some kind of wallpaper thing. I've turned off all the screensavers and everything, but it's some kind of screensaver wallpaper engine that just will run no matter what my screensaver choices are. And I searched it up to see, is this like a third-party thing? No, it's like it's a native thing in Mac OS.
Maybe you could turn it off in Terminal. Maybe Google, see if you could.
It doesn't seem like it, but anyway, I've tried the different remedies, but it's
always running at the top
of my Activity Monitor is like, I can tell you what it is, but anyway, some kind of wallpaper thing. What's your first?
I'm telling you, I love to do this and maybe it's not possible, but a lot of times, if you use terminal, the sudo command, which is very dangerous.
Oh yeah, the God command.
You can kick it in the nuts, man. You can be like, hey,
but sudo is
running.
like with great power comes great responsibility, man.
Totally,
like that's a scary one to use. Yeah.
One character wrong.
My son was doing something in his like Roblox like 2 years ago. He has a computer for like a year or two, and that I gave him, and he was like, I'm trying to install this Roblox plugin or whatever, and then I saw like him open terminal, and he was reading on this little screen like the instructions, and he started typing sudo. I was like, whoa, fuck, like, do not
like
let me
very
run
careful,
this stuff by me before you start to. I did actually have to. Yeah, I had his computer was giving me big problems. I was like, did my son look at a bunch of porn or something? You know what I figured out was that that Chrome would just not work on his computer at all. It just like no websites would open, but Safari worked great. If I did Chrome with my profile, it worked really good. And it was like his profile just wouldn't load anything.
Wait.
What I figured out was it was the parental controls that I put on through Mac OS.
Yep. Because
Mac OS can't look inside Chrome to see what URLs. It just wouldn't let him open anything in Chrome because I used the Safari parental controls and I put those in, and it just basically destroyed Chrome for him. So I had to lift the parental controls, and I did a smart thing. I went into his DNS settings, and I put parental controls at his DNS level.
Wow.
On his Mac profile. So
until he figures out how to
all the bad, like it basically a DNS level filter that filters out all the bad websites.
That's clean.
Anyway, sorry. That's
okay. So my first
yours.
world problem is the opposite. I'm actually a first world celebration.
Oh, I love it when you do these. Yeah.
Because my and this is so nerdy. I'm almost embarrassed, but like I have this Magic Mouse 2 that I've had for years and years.
You're starting off pretty nerdy. Yep.
And it just, for one day, it just stopped working on like a regular cloth mouse pad, like one of those rubber bottom ones that has cloth on the top.
Yeah,
it just stopped. It just doesn't, like you move it and it just, like it maybe jumps once or twice, but it doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
And I looked it up and there's like, delete it from Bluetooth settings and re-add it and try this and try that and blow out the thing and clean it off with a Q-tip, whatever. It just doesn't work. Just fucking stopped working. But it does work like on like a steel table at the coffee shop, like a raw steel table, perfectly. Huh. And like it's working on this wooden.
Pen. Okay.
Yeah. So I thought that's kind of weird, and it just seems like this quirk.
Yeah.
So I bought this like plastic mouse pad from Office Max, and I'd been using it for years, and it worked great. And I would put it in my bag, but it slowly got this warp where it just and I would roll it up and try to unwarp it, and it's just basically not gonna, it's just toast. So, and when when the middle is sticking up and you go to slide, it pushes it down. It's just stupid.
Yeah, that's annoying.
So I went on a search for I just went on this really nerdy search for like, well, and I fell down this Reddit hole. It's like a rabbit hole, but it's a Reddit hole.
I'm very familiar with those, yeah.
And the elite, like the people who have the biggest opinion about mouse pads are gamers.
Yeah, of course.
Because you need like absolute total control and like speed.
100%. Mice, keyboards, mouse pads. I'm not surprised. Yeah.
So, and what they actually, and there was like people who are for like these Delrin things, or like you can actually buy like a perfectly like a steel plate, that you can use, but they basically there's this one mouse pad that you have to order from Japan that costs like $120, and they make make it when I didn't buy it. They make it when you order it, like it's on demand ordering, and they make this. It's got, I don't know exactly what, some kind of surface that's been diamond treated or something. And so I was like, I'm not going to buy that. That's way too nerdy. But the second best thing is the Logitech gamer pad. And I bought one of those, and I was like, oh my fucking God, it's so...
It's weird that a mouse pad could make that much of a difference.
Oh, I had no idea. Like, I am literally like so happy about.
You're in
like,
a new world.
This fucking mouse pad, it makes the mouse so accurate, so fast, so clean. Starts, stops, everything is perfect, and you're just like, damn, it costs $19.95, Amazon. Logitech mousepad for gaming. It's a gaming mousepad.
All right.
I'm so impressed. I got a shout out to Logitech. Maybe
All right.
we could
Christmas
get sponsored.
present for my son, I guess.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Because he last year he wanted a gaming mouse.
Yeah, well, this mousepad is optimized.
I got him a gaming mouse.
I don't know because it's optimized for the Logitech gaming mouse.
Yeah.
And I have the Magic Mouse too, but it just
I'm
works
sure
great.
that,
It's amazing.
yeah.
It just works amazingly well.
Huh. All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
So there you go.
Good. Nice.
So fun to talk to you. This was a nice long one. And,
Likewise. This is a long one.
Yeah.
Very much on politics this time, but
It's true.
We didn't weave around quite as much.
We did.
We stayed a little bit true to one domain.
I felt like we aimed. I really liked that we aimed towards sort of like if I was in charge of the world.
Yeah.
What would the Neo New Deal?
I like our
include?
world. I like the possibilities that our world creates.
Yeah. Maybe we should start a new political party that with those platform points.
Let's call Andrew Yang. See if he's interested.
Please no. Please no. Okay.
All right, my brother.
All right. Talk to you soon.
See ya.
All right. Bye-bye.
Satellites? A satellite represents a journey, information gathering, this journey around the Earth.